Hello!
Hello,
I'm Kathy.
I'm Rachel and this is Lunabird Book Club.
Today we're going to be talking about non-fiction books because it is non-fiction November and that apparently is a thing.
It's always been a thing.
It's always been a
Always.
thing. I learned that it was a thing last year in November when loads of YouTubers that I follow started talking loads about non-fiction books.
I learned that it was the thing about 4 days ago. Kathy told me the topic of our next video.
I know, it looks like fun. So I've written down 10 questions for us to talk through, and this isn't a tag I've stolen off anybody else. I've made these questions all on my own, so thank you very much.
If you are a booktuber and want to do non-fiction November book tag, use Kathy's questions.
Yeah, and I'll write them all in the description. Actual stuff in the description this time.
No.
Okay, so the question 1 is, in general, how do you feel about reading non-fiction?
I am bad at reading non-fiction. I would love to read more of it. I know that I'm very happy reading fiction. It's where I'm more comfortable. Over the past few years I have bought more non-fiction books than I have in the past with the idea of reading them, but then I look at them and I think, I want to read a storybook.
I think my feeling is similar, is that I feel like reading non-fiction is something I should do more of, but I find it harder to find a non-fiction book that I enjoy reading. I went through a stage where I tried to make every third book I read non-fiction, but that's...
Yeah, I feel like I started the year saying I'll read one non-fiction book a month, and I've maybe read like 3, and it's November.
Yeah. So, well, my next question was, how often do you read non-fiction?
Not very.
Yeah, not many. Maybe I should have actually counted up and checked, but yeah, I read a lot more fiction than non-fiction. When I feel like I have control of my reading lists, I do try and make every third one an attempt at non-fiction, but I don't always finish them. Okay, question number 3. What do you like in a non-fiction book?
I think I like it to be accessible language, I think. I feel very underqualified to actually discuss non-fiction because I read so little of it. But if the voice is engaging, I am more likely to read it, I think.
Yeah, do you know, I think the same. If it's a kind of chatty, informal tone, then I'm much more likely to get on with it than textbook style, and I have read a few textbooks.
I think if it's textbook style and it's something that I'm interested in, or it's something that I really want to know more about, then I'm not as bothered about it as if it's just something that this might be a good read. But yeah, I do prefer more informal writing style for non-fiction.
Yeah, and I'd say as well, like, not too repetitive. I think sometimes it's easy to repeat the same ground in a non-fiction book. Like if you're trying to expound upon a topic, going over and over like the same things, or if it's like a self-help guide or something, you repeat the same stuff. And I like it when things move on. Oh, and just something interesting. Something interesting that I don't know a lot about.
Okay.
That's what I like.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, next question is about skills. So have you ever bought a book to learn or develop a skill, and did it work?
I don't think I have. Not in my memory that I can call up. If I was going to learn something, I would more like Google it or ask someone that I know how to does it. How to does it. Because now that we live in the age of the internet, there's so much on there. I can just Google a YouTube video about like how to knit and it'll tell me, and there's like a physical demonstration of it. Or maybe I should like sign on to a knitting class so that I'm actually socialising with other people.
Yeah, socialising.
I think practical skills, I think I'm more of a kinetic learner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sure I have got a few like skill books, like knitting and sewing books, and kind of because of what you said, they haven't been that helpful to me. But there is one skill book that I once got that really did work, and it's very niche. It was a book of like how to teach yourself how to do lucid dreaming.
Okay.
So lucid dreaming, in case you know, is when like you realise partway through a dream that you are dreaming.
And you can control it.
And then you can control it, so you can make whatever you want happen in it. And as a teenager, I heard about it. It sounded interesting. There was a book about how to teach yourself to do lucid dreaming within 30 days. And it gave you like these exercises to do. And by day 10, I could do it.
Wow.
It was really good. My only problem with it was like, once I like would wake up in a dream and be like, oh, I'm dreaming. I can do whatever I want. I just kept thinking, I'll go flying. So I would just fly. I would just fly around in my dream until I woke up. I never really kind of
did anything
cool. More creative or cool. And I mean, it's quite cool to go flying. But I remember like one of the first times I did it, I was like flying, and I thought, I'm going to touch that roof tile and see if it feels like a roof tile. And it really did. I feel like, wow, that feels so real. So I don't think I even have the book anymore. And I'd have to go through the exercises again to try and do it now. But that worked. I've never had a book be so effective at teaching me a skill.
Wow.
So there you go, how to lucid dream in 30 days. It's a very weird one, but it worked. Okay, next question. Okay. What is your favourite subgenre of non-fiction?
I think so I'm going to say two answers.
Yeah.
So I find myself reading nowadays more like social essay type non-fiction. But the books that I buy are more like ancient history, myth. Does that count as non-fiction?
Ooh.
Or is it more, I don't know.
Are they books about the myths, or are they telling the myth?
Kind of both.
I think if they're both, it counts.
Okay. What about you? What's your favourite subgenre?
So the subgenre that I've ended up buying the most of is etiquette and style guides from different eras in history.
You're so cute.
I know, but it's really funny because like I'm not actually.
Did you read them?
Yeah, so like I felt really bad saying this. Like I'm not actually a fashionable person, as if I need to say it out loud. Like I'm not.
Hey, don't put yourself down.
Like I'm not particularly like into fashion or obsessed with having perfect etiquette, as if I'm about to be invited to Downton Abbey. But I find it fascinating.
Learning what was what when.
Yeah. So I have a 1930s etiquette guide that's completely satire and tongue-in-cheek and just full of really bad advice. And then I've got like early 2000s style guides, and like one of them is like, it was called How to Walk in High Heels, like how to be like a fashionable it girl. And one of the advices is like, if you're painting your nails, you can only have nude, pink or red. Anything else is trashy.
I guess I'm trashy then.
Well, I don't.
My bright green nail polish.
Me too. But I find it funny and interesting.
Yeah.
And I've got a great one to show you.
Okay.
Okay, this is one I want to show you. This is The Lady's Book of Etiquette and Manual of Politeness, a complete handbook for the use of the lady in polite society. So this was written in 1875. And the advice in it, I've underlined some passages.
Yeah, nice.
It's just, some of it is excellent, and then some of it is very bizarre. This is about travelling. There is scarcely any situation in which a lady can be placed more admirably adapted to test her good breeding than in sleeping cabin of a steamboat. If you are so unfortunate as to suffer from seasickness, your chances for usefulness are limited, and patient suffering your only resource. In this case, never leave home without a straw-covered bottle of brandy.
Okay.
I love this book so much. I've underlined quite a bit of this. I think this is actually good advice. Okay, this is about not appearing fake.
Okay.
Avoid affectation. It is the sure test of a deceitful, vulgar mind. The best cure is to try to have those virtues which you would affect, and then they will appear naturally. So it's like, don't fake it till you make it. Actually make it.
Make it, yeah.
So yeah, so nice detail, but that's my favourite subgenre of non-fiction. Question 6 is, can a non-fiction book be a page turner?
Yeah, sure. If I'm interested in it, yeah, I want to know. I've recently finished the Book of Queer Prophets, which is a set of essays that talk about the intersectionality of religion and sexuality. And and I don't know, that's a topic that I am interested in personally. So like I was reading them like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So yeah, I thought, because that's something that I'm interested in, and I think because they have that personal aspect to them, it is easier to read them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think one that's got a personal life story in hooks you in more. I think the last non-fiction book I read that was a page turner for me was called The Haunting of Alma Fielding. And that was about, in the 1930s, a young woman reported being haunted by a poltergeist in her home, and all these strange, bizarre things were happening. And this book follows the investigation into that haunting by some scientists who were in that point of history where they were trying to figure out, is the paranormal real and a legitimate part of scientific research or not? So this book follows that investigation, trying to figure out, like, was this a real haunting? Was this a psychological thing? Was this a hoax? And all the people involved in it.
It's like the mystery of that.
And it's a really interesting book, and it follows it as it all unfolds, but it almost reads like a storybook. It's so conversational in style. I loved it and I couldn't put it down.
Cool.
Nice. Question number 7 is, what makes you give up on a non-fiction book?
I am not really a person who gives up on books. Even if I can't stand them, I have to power through, because that's just the way that my brain works. I'm not a do not finisher, which is probably why I'm bad at reading at times. For example, this is a book that I've brought. This is my current non-fiction read. I read lots of books at the same time. Normally I only read one non-fiction book at once, but I have been reading other non-fiction books while I've been reading this, because I have been reading the Letters of Vincent van Gogh for 3 years, and I just read a little bit every day. Well, not every day. I read a little bit when I want to, and then I put it down for about 2 months.
Nice. You are very persistent. What makes...
To my detriment. What makes you, Deanna?
Okay, what makes me put down a non-fiction book is if I don't understand what's going on.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So, like, I tried to read one recently which was about exploring... Again, I like ghost stories. This was about exploring haunted locations in Britain of, like, the history and stuff. And, it was the location of where ghost stories had been set. And the first couple of chapters made so many references to stories and authors I had not heard of without giving an explanation of who they were. I just thought, I'm getting nothing out of this, so I stopped.
I think, because obviously I don't read a lot of non-fiction, so I think if I read more and I was reading something that was really inaccessible to me, I wouldn't persist in it, because there's no point in doing that. But that one, Van Gogh, it's just reading his letters, so it's just a bit boring at times. Next question.
Next question. Okay, this question's like a two-parter. Which do you prefer, biography or autobiography? And can you share a biography or autobiography that you liked?
So, as I stated earlier, I do like reading like essays and things, so I feel like some of those are sometimes like quite memoir-y. But the only biographical book, that's not how you say that, the only biographical book I can remember reading is when I was 14. I got it for my 14th birthday, and I read it on the way to pick up the dog that we also got on my 14th birthday. It was Justin Bieber's autobiography.
I know that existed.
And I think that's the only like biographical book that I've read.
Yeah.
So I can't really answer that question. Your turn.
Okay, I like biography over autobiography because I just feel like too many autobiographies are ghost written, and that annoys me. I read quite a few. The one of Shirley Jackson really moved me last year, but speaking of like celebrity ones, I really enjoyed, there was a Robbie Williams one that I read years ago. I can't remember what it was called. It might have been called Feel, and it was written by a journalist who spent like 6 months living with Robbie Williams and just recording like what happened in his life and interviewing him and other people. And I enjoyed that because it made celebrity life sound really boring and confining.
Non-glamorous.
Yeah, I feel like it really lifted the lid off, and I thought it was quite brave of Robbie Williams to allow this book to go out that didn't portray him in like the best light, but portrayed him in a very earnest light, and it was a really fascinating peek into like celebrity life that made me think, oh, I never want to be rich and famous like that.
I think I'm going to jump back in here and say, like, I have read, I feel like historical, I wouldn't really call them biographies because it's more like talking about people, like historical figures, and I feel like biographies are more like, I don't really know how biographies work.
They can be historical figures.
Okay, well then I have read some biographies, I can't tell you which ones, but I have read some, more than just Justin Bieber.
Yeah, historical ones really count.
Okay, then cool, I've read some historical biographies. I feel better about myself now. Not that there's anything wrong.
Nothing wrong with only having read
Justin Bieber's autobiography. If that's you too, I'm not judging you. I just personally feel like I can read more than just Justin Bieber's autobiography.
I got you. Okay, whose biography would you one day love to read?
Obviously we're both massive nerds. I think I do know things about Tolkien. But maybe like if I sat and read a specific book about him and like his life and things like that, I feel like I would enjoy reading that because he's quite literature-y. And obviously like all his experience in the war and things like that, I feel like that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, can I jump on and have that too?
Yeah, sure.
Because I read a biography of C.S. Lewis last year, and then I read loads of his books at the same time. And I really enjoyed doing that, like doing a deep dive on an author where you read their biography and then their works.
You do that a lot, don't you?
I've done it
a couple
3
of
times.
That's more than
I it's always been rewarding. I just haven't found another author to
Tick off your list.
Another author to do it with. So that doesn't sound very good. So yeah, Tolkien for both of us. We should find one and read it together.
We should! That would be cute.
Okay, that's a future project. The last question. Are there any non-fiction books on your to-read pile that you're particularly excited about?
So obviously my attitude to non-fiction isn't the greatest, but I feel like I get interested in something and I buy a non-fiction book about it and I'm like, oh, I'll read that at one point. So I have a book on my TBR which is about the Romanovs.
Ooh.
I don't know. I should have read the reviews before I bought it. I haven't read the reviews now. I don't know if it's a good book. I don't know if it's a good source or anything like that. But because as a kid I loved the film Anastasia, and then
I love the film Anastasia.
Great film,
it's like a great soundtrack.
There's a musical version of the film which is less magical.
Okay.
So it's more like realistic.
Yeah.
So I would just like to understand how realistic it is, but this book is like proper chunky. And it's obviously it's about the whole dynasty, not just Anastasia and but I just think it would be really interesting to learn more about the musicals. That's actually why I started reading The Letters to Vincent van Gogh, because there's a musical based on the Letters to Vincent van Gogh, which I really like. Starry, you should check it out. And we should check out Anastasia as well. I just love musicals. But yeah, so one of them.
Nice. For me, I'm actually reading one at the moment which is called Walking the Invisible, and that's about the landscape and walks around the Bronte family. So I'm enjoying that. I've only just started it. And then there's one that I don't have but I keep hearing about, I don't even know what it's called, but it's one about routines of authors. And it's just about lots of different authors and like where they would write, how they'd write, what their routine was, what their approach was. And I think I want to read it because it sounds interesting and maybe it'll inspire me in my writing. I don't want to read it because I might feel jealous and insecure by reading the routines of successful people. So like I want to read it and I don't want to read it. I think I probably would enjoy it if I eventually get around to it.
That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed Kathy's 10 questions about non-fiction. If you have any answers to them, leave them down below. We release a video every Friday, so make sure you like and subscribe to keep up to date with all of our bookish content. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Bye!
Because I think we live in the age of the internet and there are so many... What is wrong with me?